All right, today I've got Avery Carl on. Avery is the founder of the Short-Term Shop, right?
Right.
And you also wrote a book with Bigger Pockets called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. That's been very successful.
Yeah.
And I've actually had some of my students mention you before too as somebody that we need to get on the show, get in our events as just the short-term rental expert. So you're here.
I'm here. Here I am.
You've made it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about who you are for those who don't know you.
So my name's Avery Carl. I'm a real estate investor. I have 220 doors. I'm also a real estate agent or team leader now. We have a team within EXP. I can't call it a brokerage, or EXP will get mad at me. But my team is Short-Term Shop, sells short-term rentals, buys and sells short-term rentals, or for clients. Sorry, I misrepresented that. We are a team that sells real estate. And we've got offices in 15 of the top vacation rental markets in the country. So we do that. We educate all our clients on how to manage their own short-term rentals so that they don't have to pay a property manager that 25 to 40%, and they can really kind of scale and bootstrap so that they can scale more quickly. So I personally started out working in the music business as a marketing manager. I was making $37,000 a year and just really unhappy with that. And we kind of backed into real estate investing, which we can get into later if you want. But what's worked for me is we've gone from 0 to 220 doors over the course of about 5.5 years. And we were able to do that because 5 of our first 6 investments were short-term rentals. And they cash flow so much heavier than traditional long-term rentals that we were able to scale our portfolio much more quickly than if we had just started with traditional single-family long-term. So that's kind of like my strategy and what we teach our clients and what we teach in our education. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So, I mean, for one, going from 0 to over 200 doors, and we're not talking like you're doing syndications and things like I am. You know, like you accumulated 220 doors on your own. Like a lot of them are single family. That's not easy to do, what you did.
It's been a process. It's definitely been something that my husband and I have really worked hard on and just we got lists of goals all over our house, and we've just really kind of like bared down and done it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's super impressive. Like whenever I hear that, because, even for me, right, we have over 500 doors now, and majority of them are all syndication, right? And I think about all the doors I've bought, me personally, on my own, one by one, and I'm like, how the heck did you buy that many? That's crazy. But no, it's super impressive. And you're doing something that I have not heard of anyone really doing, of opening up brokerages specifically for short-term rentals and educating clients on how to buy this specifically. I think that is such a smart niche that just no agents or brokerages are doing.
Thank you.
How'd you fall into that?
It was a little bit by accident. Like, I think the same way we ended up in real estate investing. I don't think anybody says, I want to be a real estate investor when I grow up. It just kind of the way things progress. So when we got our first few short-term rentals, and I just quit my corporate job and was full-time as an agent, it just kind of started organically. Like, friends were saying, you're making how much on that cabin? Teach me how to do that. Mm-hmm. And then it became friends of friends, and then it became true clients that, we didn't have a prior relationship with. And then it just kind of grew from there.
Right. Yeah, I think just with short-term rentals as a whole, obviously they're the hot thing.
Yeah.
I've got buddies who are short-term rental gurus. I've got everyone asking me all the time at Future Flipper, hey, what do you think of short-term rentals? Should we do Airbnb, and should we do this? And I'm like, man, short-term rental, to me anyways, in real estate is probably the hottest thing right now.
I think that it is. And I think part of that is because they cash flow so heavy and they're very easy to finance compared to like a 20-unit apartment building. You can go get a conventional loan to buy a short-term rental, typically lower interest rates than other types of loans. And that's pretty easy to get. Whereas like if you're going to go buy a comparable 10, 20 unit apartment building that would cash flow the same. You've got to go find a local commercial lender. You've got to show them your personal financial statement. They have to decide they want to invest with you. And it's just pretty
It's gonna cost you a lot more money. You got 20 tenants to manage.
Yeah.
You've got 20 renovations potentially.
Totally.
There's a lot more that goes into doing big deals. And so, yeah, I agree. I think from the short-term rental perspective, if you're just looking at it strictly from cash flow, it's great, especially today where cash flow on just normal rentals is pretty impossible in most markets.
Yes, it's difficult. And then with the interest rates going up, if you're buying a single family long term that was going to maybe make $500 a month, and then the interest rate's gone up, then that cuts into your profit significantly. Whereas a short term rental is cash flowing a lot harder. Interest rates are still a factor, obviously, but it puts less of a dent in that cash flow than if it were a long term.
Yeah. I always tell people this when it comes to rentals, you got to look at things multiple ways. Like, for one, you're either going into a cash flow market or an appreciation market. And if you want to be in a cash flow market, then you're going to be in the Midwest or something like that. You want to be in appreciation, then, well, you're going to be in California, Vegas, Florida, these markets on the coast. And, the thing is, it's very difficult to get the best of the both worlds. You can't just go buy a property in California and be like, all right, I want to go make $1,000, $500, even $200 cash flow. Like, it just, with rates and prices where they are today, it's pretty impossible unless you just stole the home or put a giant down payment.
Right.
But there is the short-term rental thing where, hey, it now is possible where, yeah, you can still buy a home at today's interest rates in one of these spots and actually make really good cash flow if you manage it properly.
Right. And definitely, I think that there is a science to, well, really more of an art, I guess, we're going to get technical, to what market you choose. The markets you choose will really determine how much staying power you have in terms of regulations, or are there no regulations, or is it in a metro market where a lot of people live whose income is not dependent on tourism? Maybe they don't want you opening up a short-term rental next to them. So you really have to be strategic about the market that you choose, the type of market that you choose to invest.
Yeah, I mean, we're here in Vegas right now, and Vegas is super anti short-term rental. And I have no Airbnbs here. I got a lot of long-term rentals. I would love to turn them into short-term rentals if I could, but the reality is I can't.
Right. You've got a huge hotel presence in Vegas that is lobbying against that. So that's kind of the markets that I stick to are like the regional, drivable, true vacation rental markets or true vacation destinations. So areas like the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, the Panhandle of Florida. And the reason for that is there's not a lot of hotel presence. So you don't get that big pushback because the cities and counties are totally dependent on tourism. And the only place for those tourists to stay who are coming, millions and millions of tourists a year are short-term rentals. So they're very friendly for that. A lot of them have some regulations and set up processes for permits, but in terms of like limiting short-term rentals and things like that, you're good to go if you choose the right market.
Right. 100%. What do you think about these 30-day plus rentals? Because I've thought about that a lot in Vegas to kind of get around it.
That's an interesting topic right now because a lot of people are like travel nurses. And I don't think that relying on one subsect of one profession is a strategy. But if you have other strategies, like, midterm rentals have been around for a long time. They've just been called corporate rentals.
Yep.
And as long as there are at least 3 types of renter coming into the market that you're in, so not just focusing on travel nurses, Vegas, I mean, you would have any number.
We have everybody coming.
Yeah, you would have any number. So Vegas would be somewhere I would be comfortable with that. But I want to just make sure that as people are kind of jumping on that bandwagon, that you have at least 3 types. You're not relying on just one single, like, small little sect of the market to support that. But I think it can be a really good option in an area like this where you do have those regulations, but you still probably could do really well.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it with my short-term rentals in Big Bear, right? And our average stay is 2 days. And I'm thinking, man, who would want to stay up there for 30 days? Like, nobody's going up there for that long. Maybe, but for the most part, no. But Vegas, yeah, people come here for 30 plus days all the time. Travel nurses, people just want to live here for a couple of months during the winter. People, like, the list goes on and on why people come to Vegas.
Totally.
So I'm actually going to experiment with it with my current house. So I'm moving here, God willing, in hopefully a month or so. Probably not, but hopefully by the end of the year is when I hope to move. I've been working on my new house for far too long. And my current house is really cool. I mean, it's got a basketball court, a pool, big backyard, a movie theater. Like, it's going to be a sick rental. And so I'm just really curious to see how it rents on a 30-day plan.
I'm curious to see that too. I'll follow along.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be a YouTube video. So tell me about just in general, right? Okay, you've got these 15 shops that are in these markets. You've strategically picked these markets, I assume, for a reason, because they're good for short-term rental, right?
Right.
What happens? Why would a client come to you? And take me through the sales process.
Sure. So we choose our markets based on a few things. So we want it to be that regional drivable vacation destination, because regional drivable markets, as opposed to like big fly to markets like, Jackson Hole or Hawaii, those are really expensive vacations. So in a potential downturn, people are maybe not going to fly to Aspen or Jackson Hole, but they might go to Blue Ridge, Georgia, or the Smokies in Tennessee, because it's drivable, it's easy, it's affordable. And then whereas with COVID, it wasn't necessarily that people couldn't afford to go on those big vacations. It was that they didn't want to be on flights, like breathing on each other and get sick. So again, they just stuck to those drivable vacation destinations. So they're both accessible and affordable, which provides, there's no such thing as recession proof, but it's very insulated to potential recessions. So we stick to those for that reason. For another reason, there's very little hotel presence, like I talked about earlier. So we stick to areas where the majority of the tourism is driving in, the majority of the tourism is staying in a cabin, condo, beach house, things like that. Mm-hmm. So those areas typically, not always, there's exceptions to every rule. And of course, we check on this and vet it before we open up. But typically, these types of areas are very accepting and friendly to short-term rental owners, because the tourists that come in there would not have anywhere to stay otherwise. So we stick to those types of markets. Our first office was in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. We've got 3 offices in 3 different areas of Florida, 2 in Texas, 4 in North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Broken Bow, and Gulf Shores, Alabama. So we've got the Southeast pretty well canvassed.
Yeah. What's up with the West Coast? Are you going to expand?
Yeah. I've looked into it, and there are some markets that I would totally be interested in doing it. There's just a very specific type of agent that we want to hire that just has not necessarily presented itself in some of the West Coast markets yet.
You hear that if you're in the West Coast?
Yeah, we're hiring. Yeah, we're hiring anywhere that makes sense. So if you guys have a market you want to pitch,
and basically they would join your team at EXP.
Yep.
And you guys would do that.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
That's exactly how we do it.
So I think that's super cool. And the reasons you listed were why I initially got Big Bear in the first place. I bought my first one in 2017, so I'm going on, 5 years now of doing short-term rentals, which is crazy because when I first did it, and this, there was no education the way there is today. It was this new thing.
Nothing.
I remember I was like, I'm going to Airbnb. And then I started looking at stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what to do, but I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And, you figure it out. And you're like, it's really not that hard, right? And it's been really cool just to see people catch on to it. And then now, kind of like Uber and Lyft, people are now having to adjust, and cities are having to adjust, because you're like, yeah, I would rather go rent a whole house for the same price of a hotel room.
Yep.
Right. What are you seeing in your markets? What do you think are the top 3 ROI wise? Because I've seen prices explode in Big Bear, where the 2-bedroom cabin I used to buy for $200,000 is now $500,000 plus. And yeah, it does get a little more in rent, but not that much more compared to what it was getting before.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of what we're looking for when we're investing, or what's about, okay. So it just kind of depends. So things have gotten a little tighter in the past couple years. So the good news for people who are maybe thinking about getting into short-term rentals today is it's the best time to buy in the past 2 years. You're coming in at a really good time. Excuse me, because last year it was just so competitive. You had to offer $100,000 over asking on everything, just to be considered. So now you can actually gasp.
Negotiate.
Yeah. So you can actually be a real estate investor and negotiate and look at different deals, and you don't have to just slam offers in the day something hits the market. So
Right.
I would say there's definitely a lot more opportunity now, and we look for a minimum of a 20% cash on cash return. But what I've seen lately is people getting a little mixed up and trying to mix like more than one metric into a deal. So for example, if you want a high cash on cash return, you put the least amount down. But if you just want a really high cash flow monthly, then you put more down. So you can't have a high cash on cash return and the highest possible cash flow. So you just kind of have to, it depends on what your goals are. So for me now, personally, I'm not looking at cash on cash return that much anymore. I've got some money sitting on the sidelines. So I'm like, okay, how much is this going to add to my monthly income? Does this make sense? Yes. So I'll move forward. But for clients, I would say, a minimum 20% cash on cash is what you're looking at.
Okay, that makes sense. So today's podcast is brought to you by Future Flipper. So Future Flipper is a real estate education company that I founded back in 2018. And since then, we have helped thousands of students all across the country learn how to invest in real estate. And it doesn't matter whether you're trying to learn how to flip houses, whether you're looking to wholesale or build your rental portfolio. We've helped everyone in all the different circumstances. This even includes people who have never done a real estate deal. We've helped beginners get their very first deal. We helped other people who have already done some deals scale to doing multiple deals a month. And we've even helped people get to my level, people to scale their business to doing over 100 deals a year, learning to become an owner of the company and not be involved in the day-to-day, and learn how to delegate and hire employees at the highest level. So regardless of what boat you are in, we can help you out at Future Flipper. We've got amazing events. We've got amazing coaches. I coach directly in Future Flipper, and I would love to help you get to the next level. So all that being said, if you are interested in getting a free consultation call, a free strategy call to see what it's going to take to help you get to the next level, go to futureflipper.com and you can book a call with my team. Once again, check out futureflipper.com to book a call. I know that many of my listeners on this podcast are high-income earners in fields outside of real estate. And they always ask me, Ryan, how should I invest my money? Should I go start flipping houses? Should I buy an Airbnb? Should I buy rentals? What do you think? And I always say, look, a better use of your time is continuing to build your business and your career because you're already really good at it. Trying to go figure out how to do real estate deals on your own and managing construction and all that stuff is probably not the best use of your time, but you can still invest in real estate by joining Pineda Capital. We will do everything for you. We will find the deals, we will manage them, we will get them renovated, we'll get them rented out and everything else. All you've got to do is invest and you're going to get a return on your money. So if you want to figure out what is the next deal that you can invest in, you can go to pinedacapital.com. Currently, we're only open it to accredited investors only. So if you want to get in on our next deal and you want to get on the VIP list, definitely go to pinedacapital.com and apply today. And what kind of loans are they getting for these?
Most people, so I would recommend, they actually just raised the conventional loan limit to a purchase price of, I believe, about $845,000. That's up from the mid 700s. So I would recommend, if you're new, maxing out your conventional loans first, because you can get a conventional, a lot of people don't realize this, you can get a conventional investment loan for 15% down on a single family, up to 845. So I always tell people to max those out first. They're always going to have the lowest interest rate. It's typically going to be the easiest type of loan to find. But if people have a situation with, like maybe they've got the cash, but their DTI is off, then I'd recommend a DSCR loan. Yep. And there are a few lenders out there that offer DSCR loans specific to short-term rentals. My company, The Mortgage Shop, is one of them. But there are a few others out there. So that would be my second recommendation. And for those of you who don't know what a DSCR loan is, it works similarly to a commercial loan, but basically they're approving you based on what the property will make rather than your own personal debt to income ratio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're saying that your company, the Mortgage Shop, or not the Mortgage Shop, you got me thinking about mortgages now.
No, yeah, I do have the Mortgage Shop also. Short-term shop,
I
real estate
was right.
sales. Yeah, Mortgage Shop is our mortgage arm.
Okay, so I didn't misspeak. Okay,
no,
cool.
No, keeping it on
brand. All right, you guys can handle the loans for your clients too. That's amazing. And they can do a 15% down conventional. I remember my first one, I did a 10% down second home conventional. So that was my first one. And And then, yeah, since then I've gotten a ton of DSCR loans. For those who are wondering what that stands for, it's debt service coverage ratio. And so essentially basically how it works is they take your mortgage payment. A lot of them are interest only as well. They'll take your mortgage payment, let's call it, $2,000, and they're going to look at, hey, does this meet our ratio? And it could be like 1-to-1, right? So it's like it's got to rent for at least $2,000. And in my case, most of my stuff is long term, so that's what they're ballparking it against. But you're saying a lot of these DSCR loans you're using will go against short term rental too.
Yes. And you have to clarify with whatever mortgage broker you're using or mortgage company or whatever, make sure that you clarify that up front if they're using short-term rental income or long-term rental income, because you don't want to get 3 weeks into a deal, getting ready to close, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this isn't going to work. You're denied because they're using long-term. So make sure that you check that out up front.
Yeah, 100%, because obviously short-term is going to be a lot higher. What do you see for, I guess, the future of short-term rentals? Like, are margins going to go down because everybody's getting into it? What's your plan?
So that is why actually, let me back up. I think that there are a lot of people getting into it that have gotten into it in the last 2 years when things have been really, really easy to rent. Like, you didn't have to pay a lot of attention to your listings. Like, my rescue chihuahua could have thrown something up on Airbnb and made money last year. So I think there's a lot of people who kind of got in and got used to kind of resting on their laurels with it and not really having to pay attention. And now that things are shifting a little bit and you do actually have to manage your systems, I think a lot of those people are probably going to get out of it once they realize, like, oh, this is work. I don't really want to do that. So I think that it sounds really attractive to a lot of people. And then when they get in there and realize that, you can't just lay on the beach all day. You can work from the beach, but you can't just lay there and not pay attention. I think some of those people are going to cycle out. And then there's always going to be new markets to get into and new types of things. Like, midterm rentals wasn't something that anybody talked about a few years ago. And now that in metro markets, there's a lot of anti-short-term rental regulations. People are moving to midterm rentals there. So I think there will always be pivots. You just have to, it depends on what happens that will determine what pivot you make. But to me personally, I think owning in vacation markets that have a really strong tourism history, that, markets that have seen every, maybe 10 economic downturns or a lot of natural disasters over the past 50, 60, 70 years even. Like, my grandmother's been going to Destin, Florida and renting a short-term rental since 1937. So I feel really good about Destin's longevity. So areas like that where they've been through it all and they still have all the tourism, they're probably going to keep on. Yeah,
she saw the Great Depression, not even the Great Recession.
Yeah, she's
seen it all.
Yeah.
That's funny. So with rentals in general, this is just let me backtrack a little bit. With recessions and all that, that was actually one of the reasons why I liked Big Bear. One of my private investors actually brought that up to me. He goes, hey, I actually think what you're doing, Big Bear, is really smart, because in hard times, people don't go to Disneyland and Hawaii and these expensive places. They go to nature and things that are very cheap. And you can go out to these places, go camping, go hiking, go do whatever, cost you nothing. Go to the lake. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, that does make sense. It's not why I'm buying there, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's true, right? People still will always have fun.
Yes. And I think in 2008, I can't remember where I saw this, so I'm not going to quote it, but in 2008, people still went on vacations, just not as expensive, and they still went and drank in bars. So my husband owned a bar in New York City back then, and everybody's like, you're going to go broke, you're going to go broke. And he came up with this concept he called a Happy Meal, and it was a $7 Budweiser and a shot of Jameson. And he made more money during 2008, 9, 10 than the bar ever made before that, because he gave people an affordable way to still have fun without having to, you're not necessarily going
and drink their sorrows away.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. But yeah, I guess as far as market goes, something I've been thinking about is everything I have is a cabin, crushes in the winter. The summers do pretty good too, because it's super nice in the summer. Spring and fall are the slower seasons for it. Mm-hmm. But one thing I just stayed at a beach house in San Diego. I paid, what did I pay? It was like $2,000 a night. And super nice house, beautiful. But, I started to look at it. I'm like, man, this house is $10 million. 2000 a night's not that much for the ROI is not great for what that is versus these houses in the Smoky Mountain or Big Bear where it's like, yeah, even if you pay $500,000 and you can go get $500 a night, that's really good.
Yeah.
So I just was kind of thinking, have you seen anything in your markets where the cabins are a better value than the beach houses? Or am I just looking at California and expensive areas and that's just is what it is?
That's a really good question. That might be market specific, but I can compare a few of my properties. So I have a 4-bedroom cabin in the Smoky Mountains. I also have a 4-bedroom beach house 3 blocks off the beach in Destin, Florida. Bought those in the same year, paid roughly the same amount for each. And the occupancy rate on the Smokies cabin is 80%. The occupancy rate on the Destin house is 67%. So if you're only looking at occupancy rate, you're like, oh man, cabin all day long. But over the past 3 years, that beach house has consistently done about $60,000 more than the cabin. Just because each year.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think it's really important that when people are looking at and analyzing that they don't get so caught up in occupancy rate because it is important.
All that matters is the revenue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so it just kind of depends on the market. But as I see a lot of investors say, oh, I really want to buy in X market, but I heard it's seasonal, so I'm not even going to look. But that's just a limiting belief. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that in Big Bear that I'm going to make at least half my revenue in 3 months. That just is what it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. People will rent a 2-bedroom cabin for over $1,000 a night during Christmas.
Yep.
And New Year's. And I'm like, this week it made $7,000. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a 2-bedroom cabin.
Yeah.
But people pay it. They've paid it for years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that's super cool. So walk me through somebody who, they're like, Avery, I love what you're saying. I'm ready to roll. I don't know freaking what market I should buy in. I don't know anything, but I just want a vacation rental, something that I can make some money on, be a good long-term investment, something I can go stay at with my family. I think that is the appeal of this investment because it's not like a normal long-term rental where, yeah, I'm going to buy it and I get no other value outside of it, right? It's just an investment. Whereas I actually can make this like a place my family gets to go to every summer or whatever, right? What's step one for these people?
Oh yeah, we kind of started that and then got sidetracked. So I do a weekly consultation that's open to anybody at strquestions.com, or there's a link on our website to come to it. And it's for just that. So if you're like, okay, I think I want to buy in one of these markets, I don't know what, we go over the pros and cons of all the different markets that the short-term shop operates in. We'll talk about budget because that will be a big determining factor as Destin or the Smokies are a lot more expensive than like the Forgotten Coast or the North Carolina side of the Smokies. So we'll determine that and go over the pros and cons of each, what might be important to you, and we'll help you figure it out and then get you set up with one of our agents in that market. And then as you go through the process, you will start to get access to all of our support communities and our training and education on how to manage it. So basically we do that all while you're under contract. So by the time you close with us, you already know what you're doing. You're ready to hit the ground running.
So you're helping them. Obviously, when you're training them to manage it, like let's just talk about the management aspect of an Airbnb. To me, the first thing is you got to go furnish the place, right? So are you guys helping them with that?
So that is the beauty, again, of the vacation market is that in most of our markets, 95% of them are either already going to be some sort of vacation rental. Now, whether they've been like optimized on Airbnb and VRBO or if they're on like Uncle Ricky's cabinrentals.com, that's, it just depends. But most of them are going to come furnished already. Okay. So you might just have to budget to replace some things or do some sprucing, but you can knock off that huge furnishing line item. So we've got recommendations for all those contractors and designers and things like that if that's the route you want to go. But most of them are going to come furnished.
So most of them are already furnished, all right? Yeah, everyone I've bought, I've gutted. Yeah. So, we bought them at super discounts and put a ton of money into fixing them up and then, furnished them and all that. But what's interesting now too is with the furnishings, it's like, man, the life of the furniture does not last very long with short term. Like, what are you seeing?
So I think in our 8 short-term rentals, we've got everything from a studio up to a few 4 and 5 bedrooms. I think we replace 2 beds a year across the board. And we did just have a bed bug incident in one of ours. So we replaced 4 beds and a couch. And but in terms of furniture, it just kind of depends. Like you got to buy decently nice stuff. So like Host GPO has West Elm, which is like a nice middle of the road.
West Elm's great.
Yeah, like it's gonna last. But if you're buying a bunch of like the cheapest thing you can find on Wayfair that just looks decent, you're gonna be replacing a lot more than if you buy nice sturdy furniture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I buy out here. I don't even know if they're out in other places, but we've always bought it from RC Willie, which is out here. And you know, I mean, I don't know what it is today with inflation, but back in the day, the couches were like $600-700.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a West Elm couch in my house. Actually, it was like a $4,000 couch. Like West Elm's not cheap.
No, it's not. And there's typically, if you're buying again in the right market, a lot of them are used to what we call door code culture, where it's like they know you're not there. They punch in the code, deliver the furniture, and leave. So if you can find a local furniture store that's used to doing that kind of stuff, a lot of them have like in-house designers that will just say, oh yeah, this, and this, we'll go put it in for you.
Right. Speaking of door codes, man, that is the most annoying thing ever. Where when you get in these markets where like you got to meet them, Big Bear's like that now.
Oh, really?
I'm like, why?
That's obnoxious.
What if they get in at 11 at night?
Yeah, who's got the time?
What are you supposed to do? Like you're just.
So what do you do?
I'm not going to say publicly what I do, but it's stupid.
Gotcha.
The whole thing is stupid.
Yeah, that is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
I haven't run into that yet.
I have been dinged and fined for being a normal, rational human.
Yeah.
And giving them a door code.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I haven't run into that yet personally.
It's a California thing because I've had to do it on the beach houses I've rented too.
Really?
Yep. So like there's these property management companies. And so sometimes I've had to go to their, short-term shop and go pick up the key. And that's how I do it.
Oh, wow. There's a few like that still out there, that a few property management companies where when we're out showing houses, we have to go physically pick up the key from the office, then drive to the house, which could be 30 minutes away, and then bring it back.
That's just dumb.
Yeah.
That they do that. But in California, it's like a normal thing, which sucks.
That does suck.
Yep. So extra staff, extra annoyance for all parties. Every renter. I don't know one renter that wouldn't rather just give me the door code.
Yeah, they don't want to meet you either.
No. But I will say that the person that we had to meet in San Diego, she was really nice. She's like, it was this brand new custom built $10 million plus home. It like had sound and like this iPad thing at the front where you could like do the shades and the sound.
Oh, wow.
Like it was intense. So I would have
It sounds like a headache of having to like people
show that.
not figuring out how to use that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't even use it. So it is what it is. But okay, so they end up coming to you. You're putting them through education. You're showing them what market to do. You're helping them get a loan. They identify a house. They make offers. They're in contract now. You're now prepping them to get their stuff in order to go manage this thing at a high level.
Yes.
How hard is it to manage it for people who are watching?
It's not difficult work at all. It is. My 4-year-old could do it, but
how many
it is
hours
work.
a week does it take you to do one? If you are a brand new person,
An hour a week.
yeah,
It's not hard, but is it going to interrupt your dinner at some point where a guest like has a
an
question?
emergency.
Yeah. But all you're going to do is make a phone call and fix it. And you don't have to like go over there and apologize personally or anything like that. It's just a mindset thing. And, but it doesn't take much time at all. It's just.
And I can confirm that. We managed ours from Vegas, right? We're not even in the same state, and we always were fine. And even to this day, my property manager is in Vegas. So, yeah, it's not anything crazy. And you said you have a VA doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so we have several VAs for different parts of our businesses, and we have one VA that handles like our entire real estate portfolio. Long-terms, multis, all that. And as part of his job, he's there during business hours for, anything that comes in during business hours. So we're still managing him and making sure, because there are some things that he has to run up the flagpole to us. But so it's still a little bit of managing still, even with a VA. But it's definitely a really nice alternative to like a full service management company that charges an arm and a leg.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah, a lot of management companies will charge you like 20 to 30%, which is crazy because you won't make money.
Right.
For the amount of work it actually takes to manage it, I've never seen like a bigger discrepancy in like the actual value of what they do compared to the price they charge.
Right. I have to agree with that.
Yeah, it's crazy. The number one question I get asked by entrepreneurs is, Ryan, how do I create a personal brand like you have? How do I start monetizing social media? And I've been asked it so many times that I said, you know what? It's time to start a business and teach everyone exactly how I've done it. If you want to learn how I've been able to grow my social media following to 1.7 million followers in just 2 years, and you want to learn how we've gotten over 500 million views and turned those views into over $1 million a month in revenue, then Content Empire is for you. You see, there's a lot of people who are teaching how to go viral on one platform or how to run paid ads or funnels, but nobody has figured out how to organically merge the two. Most people think it's pay to play. But if you want to learn how to get organic content, build a fan base, build people who want to buy your products who don't need to be sold, then I want you to go to contentempire.io, apply for a free strategy session with my team. We will teach you how to build your business on social media and monetize. So once again, go to contentempire.io and we'll chat with you. One of the most overlooked aspects of running a business is who you're using for your bookkeeping, accounting, and your taxes. Unfortunately, most investors go the cheap route and they end up paying for it in the long haul. They're not properly keeping books. They have no idea how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. They're really just running off of their gut instead of running on hard data. This is where TrueBooks comes into play. TrueBooks is my CPA firm where we have helped hundreds of investors and small business owners all across the country get their books dialed in, pay less in taxes, and take advantage of every deduction that you are entitled to. Most CPAs, it seems like they're working for the IRS. We are not that way. We want to make sure that you get everything you're entitled to. So if you want to learn about how we can help you out today, go to truebookcpa.com. Like I said, we've helped out real estate investors, we've helped out crypto investors, entrepreneurs, influencers, you name it. We have helped them and we can help you. So go to truebookcpa.com. So you're prepping them, you're teaching them how to set up a listing, I'm sure how to buy supplies for the Airbnb, how to manage pricing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you guys aren't using Airbnb's auto pricing.
No, absolutely not. We're Price Labs people all the way.
I haven't heard of Price Labs. What do they do?
So it's a dynamic pricing tool.
Okay.
And whereas Airbnb's pricing tool works to book you at the lowest price possible.
So dumb. I remember when I first got Airbnb, I'm like,
oh, cool.
Why would I rent this for $100? Like everybody else is getting $300.
Yeah. So stay away from that. If you take nothing else away from this podcast and you own a short-term rental, don't use that. But Price Labs works in the opposite way. It's designed to get you the highest price possible. So it's doing a lot of analyzing constantly of both past and current booking prices in your market, and as well as like different events that might be coming up. So back in my day when we started, I had to look. So we would open up our calendar 6 months out, and we only had properties in the Smokies at the time. So we would look at every event that might be coming through the Smokies and try to adjust our prices accordingly. That would take forever.
That's
so
what
Price
I
Labs,
used to do.
Yeah. Price Labs does all that for you, and you can set some limits on some bottom and top limits on what you'll take, but it's designed to get you booked for the highest price possible.
What's their cost?
I don't even know. We've had it for so long because I don't think we have the same price as everybody else anymore.
Right.
But check it out online because I don't know anymore.
Yeah. Price Labs. I always wondered, I'm like, somebody's going to make a killing if they can just get some good AI to optimize this, because Airbnb's AI sucks.
Yes, it does.
So I don't know. And by the way, too, Airbnb, if anyone from Airbnb is watching, like literally, I cannot believe they're that big of a company and their tech is still that bad.
Well, I think it's designed to benefit the guest and not.
Well, not even that. Just like, I remember 5 years ago when I first set up a listing, it was like a nightmare setting it up. And then looking to manage it, trying to just get to my revenue.
Yeah, that's hard.
I'm like, how can I not see how much money I made? How can I not pull a report of, this month's revenue? And like, literally all I have is a bar graph to go on.
Yep, that's it.
I'm like, this is the worst financial reporting ever.
Yeah.
And this is a multi-billion-dollar company. How is this even possible?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you.
Nope.
But you know what, Airbnb? I can't hate because you guys are killing it.
Yeah.
But your tech sucks. So... yeah, that's funny. But that also means that there are things like Price Lab and whoever else wants to actually automate financial statements for Airbnb in a better way to make money.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, obviously you guys are doing a lot on that front of things, but you're also like pretty involved with Bigger Pockets. I mean, I mentioned your book earlier. You're speaking at an event with them soon too. Like, what do you got going on over there?
Yeah, so Bigger Pockets Conference, October 1st through 4th, which I believe is next week, like 10 days from now in San Diego. Speaking on short-term rentals there, obviously, and then also on a women's power investor panel. We also have a the day before on, I guess next Sunday, that'd be the 2nd, sorry. We have a workshop, short-term rental workshop, where it's a little bit more interactive and involved than me just like talking at you for 45 minutes.
I know. Every time I have to give like a seminar, it's always just like, man, dude, I'm going to have to bust this out for the next 45 minutes here.
Yep.
And then it's much easier to do a Q&A or interactive thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I feel like when people come to see you speak, they have specific things that they want answered too. So I try to always make sure that we get some Q&A time at the end.
What's the number one question people ask you? I'm going to take a guess. Let me take a guess first.
Go.
My guess is, what's the best market?
That is one of the top ones. I was going to say, do I have to have a local property manager, or is it possible for me to manage a short-term rental remotely?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Yeah. Obviously, we know the answer to that now.
Yeah.
I mean, what's on the horizon for what you guys are doing? Are you going to still just continue to buy a ton of rentals for yourself? Or are you going to try and grow all the shops nationwide? What's the deal?
Probably both of those things. I think for our own personal rentals, at some point we might say like, okay, we've got enough doors now. Maybe we'll just pay down some mortgages, like pay them off just to increase cash flow rather than just go leverage some more. But I think we're still a ways off from that. And we're always looking to expand into new markets for the short-term shop. And just depends on, again, being able to find that right agent for the job is the hardest part. Finding the markets are the easy part. Finding the people is always the hard part.
Right. No, 1,000%. So one thing I always ask people who have a lot of doors, and that's like the full-time gig, is like, okay, and I kind of can guess your answer, but it's something that most people don't consider is like, okay, the goal with a lot of real estate investors, especially people who've listened to Bigger Pockets, is like the very heavy emphasis on cash flow and financial freedom, which is great. You know, buy enough rental properties, up your cash flow, which is what you just said, and then, you know, you can be financially free. You don't necessarily have to work. Well, I mean, one, as we both know, you always still have to work.
Right.
There's management of the managers, even if you have them. Like, that never goes away. But two, I always am like, man, well, I mean, what are you making for active income? Because cash flow is great. And even if you do it at the highest level, I don't know about you, but I haven't met many people that are just chilling off rental cash flow, like making, you know, $1 million plus a year that they can just go spend and live a legit life. You know, I think for a lot of people, they start out thinking, okay, if I can make $5,000 a month, if I can make $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, I would be chilling. And as my wealth has gone up and my active income goes up, I'm like, no, I need to make like $1 million a year for me to like live the tight life I want to live, you know? And so I'm always thinking, how can I increase my active income? How can I increase my cash flow? Not necessarily in real estate, but maybe businesses that I build. So my question to you is, as somebody who's been heavily focused on building cash flow and rentals, how much of your time is spent on like active income, and like what is it you're truly like living off of and all those things?
So, I mean, the majority of my active income, which is pretty easy to figure out, is the real estate sales side.
Right.
And I think that regardless, and maybe I would imagine based on all the businesses that you have a pretty similar mindset. I think I am a little bit different than a lot of people in terms of I enjoy the building of things more than the sitting on the beach after it's built. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if we get something built, whatever that is, and we're like, okay, that's done, I'm immediately looking for the next thing because I am a working dog. Like if I don't have anything to do, I'm going to chew the furniture. So I like the building process, whether it's building a real estate portfolio or building businesses. So that to me is fun. Yeah. It's probably not fun for everyone, but I like that more than, you know, just, I guess I'm going to get up and maybe go to the gym, maybe go to the beach later. I don't know.
Play golf.
So, yeah.
Nah.
Take tennis lessons.
Yeah, I'm with you. I I tell people this all the time. They're like, so when's enough enough? And I'm like, what kind of dumb question is that? It's never enough.
Yeah. I had somebody ask me that the other day, and it kind of like almost like a condescending way. Like, when's enough for you? I'm like, well, I don't know. I like doing stuff. I like building things.
Yeah. I'm like, enough's enough is when I'm in the grave, and that's it. That's enough. I've done everything I can do, because at the end of the day, like, and people will realize this, once you reach a certain amount of financial wealth that is truly adequate for what you want to live, right? And you probably know this, when you were making 37 grand as a, I forgot what you were doing.
Marketing manager.
A marketing manager, for rock and roll.
It was country, actually, which was significantly less enjoyable than rock and roll.
Because you totally look like, just like, I don't even know what you would call it, but music, rock and roll.
A rock and roller.
Yeah, you look like it.
Thank you.
So, back then, the amount of money, if you could make $100,000 a year, you were probably like, dude, I'd be rich.
Yeah.
Living off that would be sick. And I was the same way. And, you hit that and you're like, okay, I can spend some money. And then, as my wealth has grown, I've increased my lifestyle, but I've kind of got to the point now in my lifestyle where I'm like pretty maxed out at what else could I do? I have the house I want. I go on vacation wherever I want. I can do whatever I want at this point, and it's not going to ever be that much more in the future that I could imagine. But I think for a lot of people, they start off with this number, and then you start, as you make more money, you obviously up your lifestyle too, even though Dave Ramsey and everyone tells you not to do that.
Right.
Keep your lifestyle the same, wherever it is, and then whatever. But it's like, no, you just always, I guess, maintain the margin. Don't spend more than you make. But
right.
Hey, if you make, call it $100,000 more, instead of spending $100,000 more, maybe spend $50,000 more. Like, just keep upping it up proportionately, and you'll be fine. But I just think, like, once you do hit that point, okay, if you're that good in business to hit that point financially, you're probably not the type of person who's just wanting to chill and do nothing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I haven't found many people that reach the level of wealth to hit their true financial freedom number where they're like, I literally do whatever I want, and that's good. Mm-hmm. And they just don't do anything after.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's definitely a personality type.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess the only people that I may have seen it on is people who way older in life, they're 50, 60, and 50, that's not way older, 50, but whatever. They're 60, they're retired. They're like, yeah, I mean, physically, I've gone hard at this for the last 40 years, I'm good chilling and golfing.
Yeah. And that, I feel like that too. So I'm in my early mid 30s. I'm 34.
I'm 33. We're right there. Yeah. We got the same age kids too.
Yeah, yeah. We're right there in the thick of it together. But I feel like people are like, well, when are you just going to stop and retire? I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I'm 34. I'm just going to sit around and deteriorate for the rest of my life.
You could knit.
Yeah.
You could just chill and play the guitar and whatever. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. As you grow your wealth, like, start to enjoy it. Don't be one of these guys that pinches pennies until you're 60 and then you never enjoyed life. I think that's dumb. But also too, start to enjoy the hobbies you have. You were telling me you went to the Aerosmith concert last night?
I did. I caught the Aerosmith residency last night, and it was amazing. I'm a huge fan. That was my third time. But first time was, I was 15. It was
wow.
First show I ever went to. My dad took me.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, doing things like that, going on vacations, playing golf, whatever it is, like, enjoy it now. Don't think you have to work nonstop to later on enjoy it. There's no delayed gratification in not going to the concert. Like,
yeah, don't be a martyr.
Yeah.
Don't save it for later. Just go ahead and go to the concert now.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
You can find me on our website at theshorttermshop.com or Instagram at theshorttermshop. We have a pretty big Facebook group, a public Facebook group, not our client Facebook group, called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same name as the book. So if you're just kind of thinking of getting into the space, want to see what other people are talking about, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, check it out, guys. Oh, actually, I have a random question, but
Okay.
as far as the book goes, right? I mean, you guys are teaching people kind of the things we talked about, correct? How do you think the book has helped your business?
So I think it's given people a way. A lot of people don't want to raise their hand and ask for help. So putting a book out there where they can quietly educate themselves, and then they're like, okay, yeah, I think I want to do this.
Right.
And then they come to you. I think it gets to those people who might be a little more introverted and aren't just out there asking everybody all the questions. And I think it's definitely helped establish kind of like a baseline for what you're looking for, where you need to be, what when you think you're ready to buy a short-term rental, when you think which is any time, by the way.
Yep.
You're never, it's like having a baby. You're not ever going to be like, oh, I'm ready. Everything's in place. Let's
Right.
go. So I think it just, it helps get the word out there, and that you can, this isn't necessarily for other people. It's for you. You can do it. It's not something that those rich people over there can do. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Yeah.
And where do they get the book?
You can get it anywhere that books are sold, or off the Bigger Pockets bookstore on their
right.
website.
So I don't know where books are sold other than Amazon. but
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible.
Barnes & Noble's still around.
Barnes & Noble is still around. And they have it in paperback, which is crazy.
Do
to
they
me.
sell it at the actual Barnes & Noble physical store?
Yes. And I'll tell you a funny story. So my husband wrote a book years ago, and when we were living in New York City. And back then he was like, yeah, you go in Barnes & Noble and you tell them you want to sign your author copy, and they're going to take you and they're going to hand you the book, and they're going to have you sign it, and it's going to be this cool thing, and they love it when you do that. So I went to the Barnes & Noble in Destin, Florida, and I called them before because I wanted to make sure it was there, so I didn't drive all the way over there. And I was like, hey, do you guys have short-term rental, long-term wealth? Because I was heading over there anyway. And they said, let me check. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Hung up really, really quick because I was all embarrassed. And so I went in there, and Luke painted this picture for me that it was going to be like, they're going to love it. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. This is embarrassing. So I did it. I took his advice. I did it. And I went in there. I'm like, hey, I wrote this book. I would love to sign it. And she was like, oh, did you call 20 minutes ago? And I was like, how did you know it was me? And she said, caller ID. You could have just said, I want to come in and sign it. So she left it at that. She was like, you're an idiot for calling and just doing this. It was not cool. It was not fun. I was totally embarrassed. And I blame my husband for sending me in there on that mission to do that. But
So what do you do when you sign it? What do they do with it?
I just put it back on the damn shelf.
I will keep that in mind next time.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. It's embarrassing. But
Yeah. Aren't you supposed to, in the movies, they do the book readings and stuff, right?
I know, I should have gotten the hometown author thing set up, but they were not. Barnes & Noble is in Destin, Florida, is not about that.
I wonder how many people do if that's still a thing with authors with getting a book out.
Well, I guess in somewhere like New York, where there's a lot more authors than in Destin, Florida, it's probably more of a thing than,
Right.
Going in a town of 10,000 people and being like, hey, can I sign my book?
They're like, we know who you are.
Yeah.
There's only 10,000 of us. Well, that's cool. Well, guys, definitely go follow Avery. Check out short-term shop, theshorttermshop.com.
Theshorttermshop.com.
And, you're looking to buy one of those short-term rentals. They got it on lockdown. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wealthy Way podcast. If you got value, there are two things I want you to do. The first is go to wealthyway.com and get access to all of our free stuff. You can download our courses for free. You can use the Wealthy Way planner for free. You can subscribe to our newsletter. All of it's free. It is such amazing value. I want you to go take advantage of that. The second thing is, if you could go to Apple and leave a 5-star review, or if you're watching this on YouTube and subscribe, that would be amazing. It would mean a lot to me. In fact, if you leave a review, I might just shout you out on the next episode because we are reading those. So definitely check it out, and thanks for watching.